Well, hello fellow people. I promised that page has in defense of Birdley. And then I thought, you know what? I can just make it a video to make sure the tone of my voice portrays their feelings properly, which a wall of text won't be able to do. Am I taking this way too seriously? Yeah, I am. It's a me problem. Character analysis is kind of my thing, but it also says a lot about Toby's writing that his characters have so much depth to them, which is why it genuinely hurts me that Birdley is always taken as just a joke character you're meant to hate, even by people who seem to be focused on analyzing themes and characters. And yes, I'm also taking this so seriously because Birdley reminds me of my younger self, which is proof enough that he's not written to be just a joke, or that he's a lost cause that we should just kill in cold blood. Anyway, let's go. We can count it as part 1, I guess, because this will not contain anything from Sweepstakes, chapters 3 and 4, and the other one. This is purely the first 2 chapters. This is what I thought of him 3 years ago, which, oh boy, I will make a follow-up if I need to. Let's get one thing out of the way first. He is not a narcissist. There's a difference between being arrogant and being a self-centered prick. And the difference is, Birdley doesn't actually believe his own bullshit. He says so himself during the backstory portion. If he were a narcissist, the way people usually understand the term at least, he would have never admitted any of the things he said. He knows he's stupid. He knows his flaws perfectly well. He's not delusional enough to actually believe he's the greatest, smartest person in the room. That's the difference. He intentionally acts like he knows everything because he thinks that would make people think he's smart. His entire act is, well, an act that hides his extreme insecurities and abandonment issues. Oh, and he's like what, 16? Keep that in mind also. It's because of those insecurities that he's acting this way. He doesn't want to admit he's dumb because then what else does he have? If he's not the smart boy he pretends to be, why would anyone even look at him? If he doesn't constantly put himself out there and make himself as loud as possible, everyone will just forget he exists. And that thought terrifies him. Without the false aura of the greatest, smartest student and awesome gamer, he's just some unremarkable nerd from some small town. Which, let's also bring up this part, which is very realistic. When you're a teen that lives in a small town, you generally have 2 options. You get good enough grades or have some skill that would let you move up in the world, go to university, get a good job, or you're going to be stuck in your small town until you scramble enough to attempt following the other path. And, well, Birdley has the expectations on him that his grades are good enough to actually make something of himself. Which they aren't. He admitted himself. His grades are only good because of Noelle's help, which is why he's scared of going anywhere without her, risking everyone finding out that he can't live up to those expectations put on him. His insecurities eat him up, the classic gifted kid syndrome, which is even more fucked up in this case because he never was a gifted kid. His one success in life was a fluke, because Noelle had things going on in her life at the time that prevented her from winning that spelling bee, and he has no idea that was the reason. He thinks she just got nervous. Which reminds me, let's bring up another thing about him that would explain half of his interactions with people. Birdley has troubles with understanding people's emotions, which, relatable, it's a common thing in neurospicy people. He doesn't understand when someone is making fun of him, he doesn't get sarcasm, he can't feel this awkward tension of someone not really wanting to be in this conversation but only engaging because it's a polite thing to do. He takes everything as he sees it. Noelle is nice to him, which must mean she actually likes hanging out with him. Alphys doesn't stop him from jumping in to read the book section, which must mean he's doing everything right. Queen sarcastically remarks that she tolerates his presence and ideas, and he takes that at face value even when her face literally says that she's lying. It's not just haha Birdley dumb, it's an actual thing people experience, and you can track it happening with his character. It has nothing to do with smarts, it has to do with emotional empathy and pattern recognition. Not to be confused with, oh, he doesn't understand emotions, which means he's an asshole by definition. Because he does actually care about people, cares too much. And cares too much about what those people think of him. Because even he doesn't like himself. That's why he pretends to be something he's not. He thinks that if he's the smartest, people will respect him, and if he's not, that respect will be gone. Not realizing that nobody actually respected him in the first place. You know what teenage nerds really love to do? Roleplay, pretend they're some awesome character instead of their boring underworld main existence, which in the furthest cases turns them into chinibio, 8th grader syndrome, delusions of grandeur, need to stand out of all time, specific language choices. Does that sound familiar? And we know for a fact this little shit watches enough anime to qualify. Being a chunie is like the most typical teen experience. This is how little nerds try to feel important, like they have a special place in the world just for them, even if their ideal self and the world are made up. And this is exactly what Birdley does, except instead of role-playing as some anime or video game character, he plays the role of the most intelligent boy in town, which, again, combine that with the pressure of expectations. It's a type of an escapist fantasy for him, a way he can pretend he's actually living up to what he has to be. Show of hands, be honest, how many of you had fantasies of being some big important person with the best career and where everything goes exactly how you wanted, preferably before your early 20s? And hey, at least his nerdiness pays off in the dark world, making him incredibly skilled in battles that literally are video game mechanics. He can put all of his game and knowledge to good use and thus become a freaking mini-boss twice. Compare that to Noelle, who's only casually played Dragon Blazers and the like, and it's reflected in her battle experience. The one time being a nerd actually helps you, just have to fall into the right dark world. Oh, and an extremely common consequence of the Chuny experience is social awkwardness. It's hard to connect to people unless they're fellow nerds and can connect with you on that front. But everyone else who's not in your nerdy fixations just finds you cringy and annoying. Birdley doesn't have any friends and he knows this. That's why he clings so much to the only people willing to actually spend time with him, Noelle and Kris. Noelle especially because she's nice to him, she's nice to everyone. They can study together and they can play games together. And then there's Kris, who doesn't actually mind spending time with him, they find it amusing. The Czech during the second fight with Birdley says he usually only gets this mad when you play games together. As in, it's an ongoing thing, they hang out a lot. And because Kris finds his antics amusing and keeps hanging out with him, Birdley feels comfortable enough to have this rivalry with them. Again, classic Chuny. Because every amazing hero needs a worthy but still lesser than them rival. Note how differently he responds to Susie compared to Kris. He doesn't give her any chances, he doesn't even consider her anyone worthy of a second thought. But Kris? Class is number 3 after Noelle and him, despite Kris constantly sleeping through class, offering them to join his side and then being disappointed when they refuse, always insisting on proving how great he is to them. If he actually thought so lowly of Kris, why would he want to keep them close so badly? Which is why he's so frustrated to see Kris hanging out with Susie now. He thought they were friends, rivals, and he doesn't get why would Kris want to spend time with her now instead of him. Why would you leave me for someone who's known to be a bully? I know many people look at Birdley's backstory as a, oh wow, sex to sex, sounds like a you problem. But put aside the sarcasm and let's actually look at this from his perspective. You're a little kid who's so unremarkable that nobody even remembers your name. Obviously that already brings comparisons with other kids who are smarter, stronger, more talented than you. Kids who achieve things and get praise for it. Kids who have friends. You're a little nerd and one time you get a chance to participate in a spelling bee competition. You manage to get through the words, but your competition is doing it faster and more easily. Until she gets stuck on one word, gets nervous and can't speak. So you finish the word and win. Lucky chance, but it finally makes people notice you. For once you receive praise. You receive attention you never got from... Wait a second. I'm sorry, where are his parents? Why am I bringing this up? Well, there's this little thing that would greatly help us with character analysis. Universal mother theory. It suggests that Queen doesn't just represent a funhouse mirror of Noelle's mother, as the game showcases it, but every character's mother. With Noelle, we already saw throughout the chapter she's dismissive and controlling, knows what's best for her, and doesn't listen to her opinions while pushing her to do things she doesn't want. She is weirdly friendly and caring towards Kris, trying to bond with them, but doesn't really remember what they like. Also, she gets very silly when drunk on acid and wants to play games with them. She's antagonistic towards Susie, belittling and mocking her. And she flat out forgets Rolsey even exists, which makes sense, he's a darkner, he doesn't have a mom. And Birdley? Queen avoids him, dismisses him and his attempts to bond with her, ignores him completely and doesn't want anything to do with him unless to use him for her gain. Listen, you don't have to believe that theory, but you have to admit that it weirdly tracks. And if that tracks, what does this say about Birdley's parents? Nobody even remembered my name. Look at him running around the city the whole chapter, desperately trying to prove to Queen how useful he is, trying to bond with her, only for her to dismiss him as annoying and avoid him the whole time. This is just sad. And that's the crux of his character. It's always mommy issues. He acts this way because he's desperate for attention. Maybe not from his parents, we don't know. The theory tracks suspiciously well though. And the one time he actually received praise was when he showed academic results. And not only that, he got actual recognition. That's a lot more than he ever had. So his little bird brain went, oh wait, if I'm smart, mommy will pay attention to me? Then I have to be smart all the time. He gets a good grade, he gets attention. The addictive power of being smart. He gets something lower than an A? Why are you slipping up? You were getting good grades before just fine. And the more he keeps getting only A's, the more it becomes a given. It's not praiseworthy anymore, it's just something he has to get all the time. The pressure of expectations grows as the attention given to him dwindles. And as he grew older, he realized, oh shit, I'm not actually smart at all. But that's bad, that's really bad. Because again, if he's not the gifted kid, the smartest kid, who is he? Does that sound familiar? Yeah, we'll loop back around to the gifted kid syndrome. He had to be the best in class year after year, because if he's not, then he's not worth anyone's time. That's not even talking about the education system being screwed against kids who have trouble learning in this one specific way. I mean, look at Susie. I feel like both her and Birdley would really benefit from having some other way of learning things that won't make them feel more dumb in the process. But that's not an option, and that means insecurities grow and they struggle to keep up. One deciding it's not worth the effort, and the other desperately clinging to anything to keep himself afloat and keep up with the expectations. He's terrified of being abandoned, going back to being just some random kid whose name isn't worth remembering. So he acts out, covers up his struggles, plays up this superior persona so nobody would realize how insecure he actually is about his skills. So nobody would realize he's actually dumb as a rock, which doesn't actually matter as he finds out in Queen's mansion. But the way he was brought up to this point, it all came down to, if you're smart, you're worth something, if you're dumb, you're worthless. And he lives with this academic elitism mindset because that's all he knows. Plays this elite smartass character because that's what he thinks he's supposed to be. That's the reason he acts like a pretentious asshole. He just doesn't want to be abandoned for not living up to expectations. Well, I said my piece. I doubt this will actually change anyone's mind since it seems the majority of fandom is stuck with, yeah, I get it, but I still hate him because he's annoying view. You know what? You're annoying too. And before you start, I wouldn't be making this video if I wasn't annoyed myself. I just love my dumb son. And I will keep defending him and explaining his actions. And he gets way too much hate for being what you also were when you were his age, I'm more than sure. And maybe that's the lesson. Maybe you don't hate Birdley for his character. You hate him because he reminds you of your own childish mistakes and arrogance. Don't fight it. Embrace the cringe, my starlings. And I'll see you on the other side.